You know exactly what you need to do. The deadline is getting closer. The task isn't impossible. And yet, you still can't bring yourself to start. So instead, you check your phone, watch one more video, clean your desk, organize your files. Tell yourself, I'll start in 5 minutes. But 5 minutes become an hour becomes tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes next week. Here's the surprising part. This isn't just laziness. In many cases, it's your brain trying to protect you. Behind procrastination often hides something much deeper. Fear of failure, fear of success, perfectionism, anxiety, or simply a brain that's wired to choose immediate comfort over long-term rewards. In this video, you'll discover why your brain keeps delaying important tasks, what neuroscience reveals about procrastination, and how small psychological changes can help you finally take action. Because once you understand why you procrastinate, you can finally learn how to stop. Welcome to Inside Your Mind. Imagine this. You have an important project due tomorrow. You know exactly what needs to be done. You have enough time to get started. But instead, you check your email, scroll through social media, watch another video, make a cup of coffee. Suddenly, an hour has passed, and the project hasn't even begun. Sound familiar? Most people think procrastination is simply laziness. But psychology tells us a very different story. Procrastination is not the absence of effort. It's the delay of important tasks, despite knowing that delaying them will create negative consequences. In other words, you know you'll feel worse later, yet your brain still convinces you to wait. That's why procrastination feels so frustrating. You're not choosing between work and relaxation. You're often choosing between temporary emotional relief and long-term success. Researchers have discovered that procrastination is much more closely connected to emotion regulation than to time management. Think about that for a moment. The problem usually isn't that people don't know how to organize their schedule. The problem is that certain tasks trigger uncomfortable emotions. Anxiety, self-doubt, boredom, fear of making mistakes, fear of not being good enough. Instead of dealing with those emotions, the brain searches for something that feels better right now. That's why cleaning your room suddenly feels urgent, even though you've ignored it for weeks. That's why checking your phone feels irresistible, or why watching just one more video somehow seems like a good idea. Your brain isn't asking, what's most important? It's asking, what feels better at this moment? This is also why highly intelligent, ambitious, and successful people procrastinate. Procrastination isn't a sign of low intelligence, nor is it proof that someone lacks ambition. In fact, many perfectionists procrastinate precisely because they care too much about the outcome. The task becomes emotionally loaded. Starting feels risky, so the brain delays it, not because it doesn't matter, but because it matters so much. The good news is this: if procrastination is a psychological process, it can also be changed through psychological strategies. And that starts with understanding one surprising fact. Your brain isn't naturally designed to chase long-term goals. It's designed to seek immediate rewards. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Imagine you're about to start an important assignment. You open your laptop, take a deep breath, and just before you begin, your phone lights up, a new notification. One quick look won't hurt. 5 minutes later, you're watching videos you never planned to watch. Why does this happen so easily? The answer lies inside your brain. One of the key players is a chemical messenger called dopamine. Dopamine is often called the feel-good chemical, but that's only part of the story. Its real job is to motivate us to seek rewards. And your brain has a favorite type of reward: immediate ones. Scrolling through social media, watching short videos, checking messages. These activities give your brain a quick burst of satisfaction with almost no effort. Compare that to writing an essay, studying for an exam, or starting a difficult project. The reward may be much greater, but it comes much later. Your brain naturally asks, "Why work hard now when I can feel good instantly?" This doesn't mean your brain is working against you. It simply evolved to value immediate rewards because, throughout human history, quick access to food, safety, and opportunities increased our chances of survival. The problem is, modern life is full of endless instant rewards. Every notification, every swipe, every new video competes for your attention, and the more often your brain chooses immediate pleasure, the harder it becomes to focus on goals that require patience. That's why procrastination isn't just about poor self-control. It's often a battle between what feels good now and what will benefit you later. The good news? Your brain can learn new habits, and once you understand how it seeks rewards, you can begin teaching it to enjoy progress instead of postponing it. Most people believe they procrastinate because they're lazy, but often, the real reason is much deeper: fear. Imagine you're about to start something important: a business, a presentation, a YouTube channel, a new career. Before you even begin, your mind starts asking questions. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if everyone judges me? Suddenly, starting the task feels emotionally uncomfortable. So your brain looks for an escape, not because the task is difficult, but because the emotions attached to it are. One of the biggest causes of procrastination is fear of failure. If you never truly try, you never have to find out what might happen. Delaying the task becomes a way of protecting your self-esteem. But there's another fear that surprises many people: the fear of success. Success brings change, more responsibility, higher expectations, new challenges. For some people, staying exactly where they are feels safer than stepping into the unknown. Perfectionism can make this even worse. You tell yourself you'll start when you have more time, more experience, more confidence, or the perfect plan. But perfection never arrives, and waiting becomes another form of procrastination. The truth is, no project begins perfectly. Every expert was once a beginner. Every successful creator published something imperfect. Progress almost always starts with an imperfect first step. Psychology teaches us that action usually comes before confidence, not after. Confidence grows through experience, and experience only comes from taking action. So the next time you catch yourself delaying something important, don't ask, "Am I lazy?" Instead ask, "What emotion am I trying to avoid?" That single question can completely change the way you understand procrastination. Because often, you're not avoiding the work, you're avoiding the feeling the work creates. Have you ever said, "I'll start when I feel motivated"? It sounds reasonable, but psychology suggests that this idea may be completely backwards. Most people believe motivation comes first. Then action follows. In reality, action often comes first, and motivation follows. Think about the last time you didn't feel like exercising. The hardest part wasn't the workout. It was putting on your shoes, or think about writing an important report. The biggest obstacle wasn't finishing it. It was opening the document. Our brains naturally resist starting tasks that seem large or emotionally demanding. Before we begin, the task feels enormous. But something interesting happens once we take the first small step. The task begins to feel more manageable. Psychologists sometimes call this overcoming activation energy. Just like pushing a heavy object, the first movement requires the most effort. Once it's moving, keeping it moving becomes much easier. This is why many productivity experts recommend the 5-minute rule. Instead of telling yourself, "I have to finish everything today," tell yourself, "I'll work for just 5 minutes." 5 minutes feels safe. It doesn't overwhelm the brain. And surprisingly, once you've started, continuing often feels much easier. Your brain shifts from resisting the task to becoming engaged with it. Progress creates momentum, and momentum creates motivation. Waiting until you feel motivated may keep you waiting for days or even weeks. But taking one tiny action today can completely change how tomorrow feels. Remember, you don't need motivation to begin. Sometimes, beginning is exactly what creates motivation. Have you ever noticed something strange? The moment you decide not to do an important task, you actually feel better, just for a little while. That temporary relief is one of the biggest reasons procrastination becomes a habit. Imagine you need to study for a difficult exam. You sit down, feel stressed, and decide, "I'll do it later." Instantly, your anxiety decreases. Your brain thinks, "That worked." Without realizing it, you've rewarded yourself for avoiding the task. This creates what psychologists call the procrastination cycle. First comes the task, then comes discomfort. Instead of facing the discomfort, you avoid it. Avoidance creates temporary relief, but the task doesn't disappear. Hours later, or maybe the next day, the deadline is even closer. Now the stress is even stronger. So what does the brain want to do? Avoid it again, and the cycle repeats. Over time, this pattern becomes automatic. Your brain begins to associate important work with stress and avoidance with relief. That's why procrastination can feel so difficult to break. You're not only fighting a habit, you're fighting a reward system your brain has been practicing over and over. The good news is that cycles can be changed. Every time you choose to begin, even if it's only for a few minutes, you're teaching your brain a new pattern. Instead of linking work with fear, it slowly begins linking action with progress. Change doesn't happen overnight, but every small decision weakens the old cycle and strengthens a healthier one. Because habits aren't built in a single day. They're built one choice at a time. Imagine sitting down to work. Your laptop is open. Your notebook is ready. You're determined to stay focused. Then, your phone vibrates. A notification appears. You glance at it for just a second. 20 minutes later, you're still scrolling. Was it really a lack of willpower? Not necessarily. Psychologists know that our environment has a powerful influence on our behavior. Every distraction around us competes for our attention, and today's world is designed to capture it. Social media apps, notifications, bright colors, endless videos. They're all built to keep your brain engaged for as long as possible. Every time you switch from your work to your phone, your brain has to refocus. This constant switching drains mental energy and makes it harder to return to deep concentration. That's why your environment often matters more than motivation. Think about it. If your phone is within reach, you'll be tempted to check it. If the television is on, your attention will naturally drift. If your workspace is cluttered, your brain has even more information to process. Successful people don't rely only on self-discipline. They design environments that make good habits easier. They silence notifications, keep distractions out of sight, prepare their workspace before they begin, and make the first step as easy as possible. Small changes can have a surprisingly big impact. Sometimes, simply placing your phone in another room can improve your focus more than trying to be stronger. Because every distraction removed is one less battle your brain has to fight. Your environment is always shaping your choices. The question is it helping you succeed or helping you procrastinate? By now, you've probably realized something important. Procrastination isn't about being lazy. It's about how your brain responds to discomfort. So, how do you stop it? The answer isn't working harder. It's working with your brain instead of against it. One of the simplest techniques psychologists recommend is the 5-minute rule. Instead of telling yourself, "I have to finish this entire project," tell yourself, "I'll do it for just 5 minutes." 5 minutes feels manageable. Your brain doesn't see it as a major threat. And once you've started, continuing becomes much easier. Another powerful strategy is breaking large tasks into tiny steps. Instead of writing, "Finish the report," your first task could simply be, open the document. Then, write one sentence. Small wins build momentum, and momentum builds motivation. Rewards also matter. Your brain loves progress. Every completed step sends a small signal that says, keep going. That's why checking off a task on your to-do list can feel surprisingly satisfying. Another effective strategy is removing unnecessary decisions. If you always study at the same time, in the same place, your brain begins to treat that behavior as a habit instead of a difficult choice. Habits require much less mental energy than constant decision-making. Finally, be kind to yourself. Many people believe that criticizing themselves will make them more productive. But research often shows the opposite. Excessive self-criticism increases stress. And stress makes procrastination even more likely. Progress doesn't come from perfection. It comes from consistency. Some days, you'll accomplish a lot. Other days, just starting will be enough. And that's okay, because every small action is teaching your brain a new lesson. That action feels better than avoidance. And over time, those small lessons become lasting habits. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. Your to-do list is waiting. The same tasks, the same responsibilities. But this time, instead of waiting to feel motivated, you simply begin. One small action, then another, and another. That's how lasting change happens. Not through a burst of motivation, but through consistent action. Your brain is incredibly adaptable. Every choice you make strengthens certain neural pathways. When you repeatedly procrastinate, your brain becomes more efficient at avoiding discomfort. But when you repeatedly take action, even in small ways, your brain starts building a new habit. Over time, starting becomes easier. Not because life becomes easier, but because your brain has learned a different pattern. Remember, you don't have to finish everything today. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to feel inspired every morning. You only have to take the next small step. Progress isn't measured by giant achievements. It's measured by the decisions you make every day. One page read, one email answered, one workout completed, one paragraph written. Small actions may seem insignificant, but repeated over weeks and months, they completely change your future. Every successful person has faced procrastination. The difference isn't that they never struggle, it's that they learn to act despite the discomfort. So the next time your brain says, "I'll do it tomorrow," pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what's one tiny action I can take right now? Because that one small action may be the beginning of a completely different life. Your future isn't built by the promises you make to yourself. It's built by the actions you take today. Procrastination isn't a personality trait. It isn't proof that you're lazy. It's simply one way your brain tries to protect you from discomfort. And the incredible thing about the brain is that it can change. Every small action you take rewires the habits that shape your future. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Inside Your Mind for evidence-based videos about psychology, neuroscience, mental health, and human behavior. And let us know in the comments. What's one task you've been putting off that you're finally going to start today? Thank you for watching. And until next time, take care of your mind.